All right. Welcome, everybody. We're a minute after the hour, so I figure we'll get things started. Oh, I got to mute myself on the other. There's always a technical challenge at the beginning, is what I found. Someday I'll get this process down right. Welcome, everyone, to the ninth session of Office Hours. If this is your first time here, let us know in the chat where you're joining us from. Say hi, say maybe like how you're using ngrok or where you're using it from. You're using the agent, the SDKs, or the Kubernetes operator. And yeah, Office Hours is a live stream session where we answer questions from you all live and do some product demos and tell you all about what's new at ngrok. I'm Joel. I lead DevRel at ngrok and do all sorts of demos and blog posts and everything, newsletters. You've probably came across some of it on your way here. And I'm also joined by Aishika. Aishika, do you want to take a minute to reintroduce yourself to the
Sure.
Office Hours audience?
Hello, everyone. I'm Aishika, and I'm joining in from ngrok's HQ here in San Francisco. I'm a technical community manager, and you'll probably see me hovering around on Discord, setting up a new, subreddit. So, catch me doing all things community here at ngrok, and I'm super excited to be here.
Awesome. Yeah, we're gonna start things off with a bit of like an ngrok 101 introduction for people who maybe are like brand new to what ngrok is. We're going to talk about load balancing as well, using our new feature endpoint pooling, which is very cool. And we're also going to talk community for a little while. Aishika mentions Discord, Reddit, subreddit that we're launching, all these different things that are going on, and just kind of like where the community is headed beyond office hours. It's been very like office hours is the thing, and we want to do a whole lot more than that. So looking forward to that discussion as well. For those of you who are in the chat, whether that's on YouTube, here on StreamYard, if you have questions along the way, please drop them in the chat, whether it's about something that I'm showing on my screen or just a question that you have in general. We are more than happy to try to answer those. And as well, if you asked a question when you registered for office hours and you are here and you're hoping that we take a look at that question and answer it, kind of like give a, like a hand wave in the chat or just let us know so that I can go into the list of questions that were already filed and make sure to prioritize that one. So, all right, let's talk ngrok 101. Like if you are new to ngrok, let me show you how all of this works and kind of like the shape of ngrok that we imagine in 2025, which is pretty different from what it started out as like almost a decade ago. So I'll go ahead and share my screen. Can't do any of this without a demo. So the sort of like core use case of ngrok is it's a way to get a service that you have running on your local machine, expose that to the public internet, be able to put that on a static URL so that other people can access it. So let's say that I have a Node.js application. It's running on localhost on port 5000, and I want to be able to like share that with Aishika or share that with all of you here. This is the way that people have been using ngrok for a long time, and I'm just gonna put it on a office hours 009.ngrok.app. And now anybody that's watching this, you can access this URL, see what this service responds to, and it's shared widely. So let me also do that myself just to show you. So you can see it just responds with a little bit of information about like the request and the path and everything like that. Nothing too fancy, but this is like the fundamental use case, right? So this is, again, the way that a lot of people have been using ngrok for many, many years to share services with people they're working on or be able to like have a really basic level, if you will, of getting services in like a production grade place to be able to host their APIs or their apps and let customers use them. But we've done quite a bit in the last year of building out what we call traffic policy. And this is an engine, a configuration language that lets you filter, manage, and orchestrate your traffic from using like what we think of as very like simple and intuitive and human uh, configurations, and it's incredibly flexible. One of the really popular use cases for that right now is blocking requests from search or AI bots. Like if you go on Hacker News with any frequency, you will see people complaining about the fact that they get like huge bills from AWS because ChatGPT is in there crawling their endpoints and just creating a lot of traffic. So this is one of the ways that people are using traffic policy really frequently and really effectively. This is an example traffic policy file. It's YAML. If you've written YAML before, this will feel very familiar to you. I'm just gonna like maybe make it even a little bit bigger. The way that traffic policy works is that you define the phase on which you want this policy to be run, and we're saying for every HTTP request, we want to run these following actions. You can then define expressions that say, if the request is of a certain type, or it has a certain URL, or is of a certain user agent, we want to take specific action based on that. And then you can also define the actions themselves, which do that work of managing traffic, manipulating it, routing it to different places, all of the sort of magic that you expect from an API gateway or a reverse proxy. So just kind of run through what this file does. Is this first expression is saying, if the request is to the path robots.txt, we're going to give them a custom response that is basically like an example robots.txt. And it says like, if you are a ChatGPT bot, please don't look at this endpoint. And that's like an industry standard way, but oftentimes these things are ignored. Like the bots will just bypass it and look at your endpoints anyways. That's where the second rule comes in, which is saying if the user agent of the request is a bot, and we have these things like categories built into traffic policy, we want to just outright deny it. And then we're also saying like if the IP address of the request is from OpenAI, we also want to deny it. So before I jump into how to actually use all of that, I want to just stop and see if there's any questions. I know that like oftentimes, just like getting people introduced to the idea of traffic policy can be a lot all at once. So is there any concerns about how to get started? And I'll show you kind of how to actually attach this file to your ngrok endpoint in a moment. Seems like people are at least following along. Maybe there's some questions, but we will address them in a moment. Jump back in. Okay, so I want to then start the endpoint again with this traffic policy file attached to it. So I use the same command that I did before, but we use this traffic policy file argument and then add the YAML file itself. So now the endpoint's back up and running, and we have this traffic policy that runs with every HTTP request. So anytime that someone curls this endpoint on the ngrok network, we are kind of executing all of those expressions and actions and making sure that everything works as you would expect. So you can see that for me, sending a basic curl request, nothing has changed because I am not a bot myself. And so everything works as you would expect. But if I masquerade, if you will, as a bot, I can use curl to change the user agent of the request. If I do that, you'll see I don't get a response anymore because traffic policy and the expressions and rules that I showed you a moment ago are blocking those requests before they even hit my network, my endpoint, or my service. So this is kind of on a very basic fundamental level, one of the really popular examples of using traffic policy. And I hope for many of you, a great place to start to experiment with like how to implement these things and how to get familiar with the syntax, and then you can take it in a lot of other directions to do a lot of other really interesting things. Um, yeah, thank you. We've got some blog posts that I just published not too long ago, or an updated version that I published recently about this example, kind of like an offshoot of this example, and a few other things that you could try as well in terms of blocking bots, or even like specific companies that you would rather not be looking at your endpoints, crawling them, trying to take the data off of them, whatever your use case is. It could even just be like, as David is saying, crawlers often like inadvertently DDoS your services. It could be like a misconfiguration on OpenAI's or Anthropic's part or Google's part, but this is a very common thing that happens, that all of a sudden you get this huge spike in traffic. You're trying to figure out what happens, and traffic policy, one of the many ways to use it is to prevent these things from ever reaching your servers or the upstream services. Very cool. Let's see here. Trying to see if there's any other questions. David's got a question about the policy and a reverse DNS lookup, multiple IPs for a source. Are you asking about the IP categories? I might need like a slight clarification on like what IPs you're interested in, but I will share I'll head over to the docs for this, and I'll share with you all what kind of like what the options are in terms of managing IPs. Click through all the different tabs. Here we go. I'll make this bigger as well so everyone can see it. We have this system within traffic policy called IP intelligence. And this is where we are, like, anytime a request comes in and comes into the ngrok network, before it goes, we forward it onto your services, we're kind of like collecting and categorizing information about it. And so this is like, geolocation for the IPs, what country they're based out of. It can be like different categories. We are able to say like, is this request coming from a Tor exit node? If so, you might want to take specific action based on that. IP locations, and then we have all these categories again, which is like, we have Tor, we have generally, if it comes from an anonymous source, you might want to do something about that. And then we also integrate a bunch of open source and like popular, well-known block lists that we sort of like import into IP intelligence, that allows you to say, if an IP is hitting your endpoint that is on any one of these block lists, like, you can deny that, you can rate limit it, you can do whatever you'd like with it using different traffic policy actions. And then finally, we have a bunch of organizations as well. So if you want to say like, I don't want IPs from any one of these organizations to hit my endpoints, you have that option available to you. Like, prevent Twitterbot, put that into a traffic policy expression, and then use the deny action to take care of that. Cool. Awesome. Aishika, I'm going to bring you back on stage here. I hope you're ready. I just did it for you. With the ngrok 101 part like out of the way, so to speak, and people feel free to ask more questions about that if you have anything, I wanted to take some time to talk community, because like I said before, office hours is just part of what we want to do.
Right.
And yeah, I think maybe folks are interested in what else is out there. So maybe you gave an introduction, but I'm also curious about like sharing with folks, like, where have you done community before? Like, what other communities have you been involved in?
So I've been dabbling with all things community for the past, I would say, 4 to 5 years. It started off in college when I just figured that there's a lot of I would say disparity in a way in how different communities were being managed in my college, in my university. And I just felt like, I could do a much better job at bringing people together and helping them be better developers. So, started off as something that I was really passionate about. And then I was like, okay, this seems cool. Instead of being an engineer, I could just, end up being a developer advocate or a community manager to help budding developers be better. And that's pretty much how I've ended up here. Previously, I've been a part of organizations like DigitalOcean and GitHub. I've helped build communities for these organizations. I've managed a lot of communities of my own in college and in India. And right now, I've been here at ngrok for just about a month. Today is actually my first month versary, if you may, at ngrok. And in the past month, we have rolled out quite a lot of initiatives that are really focused on giving it back to the community, including the community license initiative. So if you're managing any open source repositories that are focused towards helping people out, towards helping other developers out, I would highly recommend applying for a community license there. I might actually just drop this right here if you could pin it up on the screen. So just a couple of resources that I've compiled. I know it looks really jumbled up here, but in the past month, yeah, I've rolled out a couple of developer engagement programs, including the community license initiative that I'm really proud of. We've gotten amazing submissions already, and I'm on the lookout for more. I'm also really focused on building out sustainable communities wherein people come together and help other people out. And we as ngrokers, we don't have to jump in all the time and help other people out. We are doing all of that on Discord, and we are very new to Reddit. So if you're on either of the two platforms, please come join us, say hi, and yeah, I'm just building crazy random things on both the platforms, if I may. So
Awesome.
yeah.
Very cool. Yeah, maybe what I will do is like Discord in particular is it's very exciting to a lot of us within ngrok, because I think there's like a cross section. A few people are like heavy Discord power users that I can think of. And
Yeah.
so like yet another way to like use something that they already engage with every day. But then
Right.
I think a lot of people are also like kind of just looking for new ways to be able to talk to like the folks that are on this office hours right now, in a way that's more conversational as opposed to like us speaking to all of you, which like so grateful that you all are here. But I would be also be great to be able to like converse with
Right.
each of you directly. So
Yeah,
yeah,
we've got a couple of voice channels too, and I absolutely love just jumping in and talking to people there.
yeah.
Uh, you're showing a couple of private channels that I wouldn't want,
Okay, maybe not then.
but yeah, this is our Discord server, so come hang around with us. And I've put in a lot of work. All the ngrokers have put in a lot of effort to make it as I would say helpful as possible. And yeah, we just try our level best to help people build better things with ngrok, and showcase all the things that they're building. So if you have ideas, if you'd like to hop on to our office hours in the future, come talk about your projects on our Discord server, and we might just invite you for office hours. And I do look forward to running a couple more streams, if you may, or series wherein we invite people, and we just basically go through their projects and all the amazing things that they're doing with ngrok, because the possibilities really are endless. I mean, I used to use ngrok, I would say 4 years back as a student at hackathons, when I was like really heavy on IoT stuff. And that's pretty much how I ended up using ngrok to expose couple of endpoints when I would try to make my Raspberry Pis communicate. And really loved it, how easy it was to run things. And it came in so handy in a timed event like a hackathon. So I see a lot of people doing similar things right now, and of course using more complex yet easy things like traffic policy. We have got the Kubernetes operator, and I see people doing so many amazing things. I would love to give people the avenue to come talk about their projects, talk about the things that they're doing. So be
Yeah.
on.
Yeah, very very curious about everyone joining and just learning more about what you all are up to. And I think, it's probably too early to give any specifics, but you're also working on some like really exciting like in-person events that will be happening in our San Francisco office, and maybe some like virtual events in the future. And I'm curious, just to kind of like wrap up the community part, like where do you see community around ngrok 3 or 6 months from now?
It was supposed to be a secret, but now the cat's out of the
Oh
bag.
no.
So yeah, we actually are looking forward to running a lot of in-person events and virtual events. How I really look at community is just bringing people together. I don't see any incentive out of it. I just want people to come use ngrok, talk about it, and just benefit from it, because this is, and offering a product that I've really benefited from in the past. So, I would love to have, people reap the benefits too. So I I I don't know if it's the right time to share this, but we have got a couple of collaborations coming up with other organizations, very exclusive, and I would be more than happy to talk about it in the coming days. But we've got a couple of in-person events lined up at the HQ in SF. And for virtual events, I do look forward to hosting hackathons. Yes, you heard it right. Hackathons are really close to my heart, something that has really helped me be a better developer. I build random things, but good things. So, I would love to have you folks come do that too. Don't build random things, build better things. But yeah, I do have a couple of hackathons and meetups, virtual meetups, and hangouts lined up. Look, I guess you should be on the lookout for more video content across our socials as well. So that would be my lineup for the next 3 to 6 months. Just a lot of developer engagement programs, a lot of avenues for you folks to come talk about it. Also, I'm very happy that somebody talked about Luma. Yes, we have a Luma calendar. Let me just find the link for you real quick.
Love it
Uh,
when people
so
are like ahead of the game. They're already
love it.
thinking about things that things that we've thought about as well.
Yeah,
Yeah, and I think the Luma, like, we're going to start adding a lot more to Luma in the coming weeks and months. Of, like you said, like some of these, I don't know, they can just be casual Discord sessions where we're hanging out, talking about ngrok, playing around with traffic policy. It's not, necessarily going to be these like heavily planned events all the time, but I think we just really want more opportunities to engage with all of you. And I'm in
yeah,
particular really excited to do some like traffic policy hackathons. Like our docs are freely available for traffic policy, but like what things can you build?
yeah,
What like arrangements that us ngrokers have never thought of? We've done these experiments and these workshops internally, but we're sort of like, we come with it with a certain bias and like a certain box that we put these things in. And I think people coming from outside would probably be able to come up with some really, really cool stuff. So
right.
um, all very cool stuff to look forward to. And I don't think I'll drop the docs for traffic policy in the chat here as well, if it's something that you haven't come across.
Right. We should really add like a spoiler alert for you. I mean, a
Oh
lot.
yeah, clearly.
Yeah, the cat's
I've,
really out of the bag.
I've said many times that I'm an open book when it comes to, people want to ask me personal questions on here. Like, I'll answer your question. Like, I'm perhaps more open book than I should be, but
All
I'll
good, all
take that
good.
under consideration.
I mean, it's good that it came out at office hours. So
Yeah, I guess it seems like the
yeah,
appropriate venue. We'll have to get one of those, like in broadcasting, they have like a kill
yeah,
switch button that they can hit and, delete
yeah.
the last 10 seconds of the stream. That's what we'll have to do for me in the future.
Be right back.
Yeah, exactly. Um, Very cool. Rob, I've seen your questions. Like, Rob is using ngrok to have multiple domains, point to a VM, and do all the routing, which is very cool. We have a lot of people kind of doing a different version of this, which is like they want to host 10 different services under one domain name and have the routing work. So they want to have like app.example.com, api.example.com, and so on and so forth. But both of these are possible with traffic policy and being able to add domains into like reserved domains and custom domains in ngrok. And your other question that, there we go. Oh, a bit of lag there. Sorry. About like balancing traffic. Perfect segue into, I'm about to start talking about load balancing and endpoint pooling and do a bit of a demo on that. But this question here about like if the local VM destination is down, like whether it's your service, the ngrok agent itself crashes, things happen, whole clouds go down, and you can't do anything about it. Like, can you redirect, or could you have a status page, something that's like, lets people know what's going on. um, I just dropped in the chat here a blog post that I wrote recently about that exact use case. And I'll share my screen for just a moment to like walk through what that looks like. Because the way that I showed using ngrok before was, and using ngrok with traffic policy, was that you have the agent itself, you apply the traffic policy to the agent, and then it's like requests come in, they enter the ngrok network, we run the traffic policy, we send it straight to your agents running on your machine, and then that forwards it to your service. um, the way that we think is like, we're kind of like encouraging people to go in this direction because we think it really unlocks a lot of power, is where instead of requests coming in directly from the agent or from users into an agent endpoint, you create a public cloud endpoint kind of as an intermediary, a middleware between the users and the public internet and your services and your network. And when you create that cloud endpoint, this blog post has, tells you how to go through that process. And then you use traffic policy and the forward internal action, so that you're saying like you have the cloud endpoint, it's forwarding to an internal endpoint that you've created. I could probably show this, but like it's maybe a bit too in the weeds. And then once you've got that forwarding set up, you can then create a custom response using the custom response action to define any type of HTML, JSON, plain text, whatever you'd like, error page or response for somebody who is coming to your site and trying to figure out what's going on. So hopefully that is cool, Rob. Seems like that's working for you, or at least we'll get you started. Yeah, let us know if you've got any questions about that along the way. I wanted to make sure that we've got time for load balancing because it's a pretty meaty subject. But the way that ngrok has built this, and the way that I hope a lot of you will start to try out in the near future, is like, it's a complicated subject. It's a controversial one. It requires a lot of configuration in a lot of cases. Like, I was exploring different docs for other providers that do load balancing, and it's like dozens of steps to be able to set up a load balancer, which is, in our opinion, like completely antithetical to the way that we at ngrok want to do, like how to make networking feel for you. So load balancing is like this incredibly dead simple and powerful and very like human way to set up multiple replicas of a service and be able to distribute traffic among them. And you might want to do that for distributing load across multiple instances, so that like horizontal scale. You might want to add some load in some capacity in a certain region that you aren't currently active in, so that if you get a bunch of EU customers all of a sudden, you want to put a couple of replicas there to be able to like make their experience faster and less latency and everything like that. You might want to use like have failover between multiple cloud providers or just multiple instances of your app, so that if one crashes, you've got a backup or two or three or four. Many different ways that you might want to use this, but I think the best way to kind of show off endpoint pooling is to actually show you how quickly I can get it fired up on my own system here. So what I'm going to do is start up two replicas of a Node.js service, and this is the same one that I started with. So it's just a very basic JSON response that we're going for here. And they're running on different ports, 4000 and 4001, just to be able to differentiate them. I'm going to start two agent endpoints with the ngrok CLI. I'm going to define the URL that I want them to be available on, and I'm going to enable the pooling flag, pooling enabled. And as you can see here, I am attached them to the same URL, and I've enabled pooling on both of them. And that's really the key here. So these are both up and running. Let's hop over here, and oh, I still have Kubernetes running as well here. Not intended, but great. Gets ahead of the demo here. You can see that we are load balancing between these replicas of our service. And for many of you, like, this might be as complicated a load balancing setup that you actually need. Like, you can take this, deploy VMs in multiple places, multiple clouds, set up the ngrok CLI, put these on the same URL, and like load balancing is taken care of. And I think it's very cool. It's almost magical in just how much complexity it strips away from what you would typically think of as how you would set up load balancing. And again, like, this works across clusters, it works across clouds, it works wherever ngrok does. And so, kind of like prove that point, I've also written a Go version of this very simple application, and I've embedded the ngrok Go SDK into it. I can actually show that really quick. Main.go. We're basically just defining what the response should be. We have the ngrok SDK embedded here. Again, we're like using the same domain, and we're explicitly enabling pooling. And then if I go and start this up and continue to hit this endpoint a couple times, again, like, we're already seeing the Kubernetes versions, but we will see the Go SDK version in here as well. There it is. Hello from the Go SDK. So we've added an endpoint with the SDK into the same pool as the agent ones as well. So, like, works across environments, works across all the different ways that you might want to deploy your services. Now, let me delete these things so that I can show you how this also works with the Kubernetes operator. So I have a very basic agent endpoint custom resource. If you haven't used Kubernetes or our operator, this is kind of like a ngrok specific way of taking a service that you're running on a Kubernetes cluster and being able to have ingress, being able to get traffic into that specific service that's running on the cluster. So again, adding it to the same URL as all of the others. And then this is basically just saying, like, how to route it within the internal Kubernetes network. And then I can apply these and supply the context. So we'll do that to one cluster in EKS, and we can apply the exact same ingress configuration to a different cluster in a different region in a different cloud. And when I come back to curl all of this again, you will see that, like, we are load balancing between the Go SDK with a Go version of our app, a Node.js version from localhost, Go versions on two different Kubernetes clusters in two different clouds. And, like, as you've seen, all I really had to do was add more endpoints to the same URL, enable pooling, and it just works. And I think that's just incredibly powerful. And I hope for a lot of you, very inspiring, and makes you want to, like, start trying this stuff out. It's enormously powerful. Anybody have any questions about pooling? And maybe it's just so simple that it doesn't require a lot of back and forth, but there's some really interesting ways that you might be able to run it based on your different use cases. to me, just like love this, Rob. Way easier than I was imagining. That's like kind of the it's such great feedback because that is the sort of ngrok way through and through everything we do when it all the way from just using the ngrok CLI to expose a service in one line of in your terminal, all the way up to multi-cloud load balancing, which in any other situation is you deploying multiple services, like it's this incredibly complex situation of like, how do I configure different load balancers in different places and keep their configurations synchronized and deal with all this complex networking and with load balancing with endpoint pooling, it truly just works. One of the like to me, if I was starting out, building services, maybe as a startup, just trying to get things rolling, I would 100% use endpoint pooling to make myself cloud agnostic from day one so that like I could try out AWS, GCP, Azure, DigitalOcean, Linode, Vultr, et cetera, et cetera. Like fire up a VM in each of those, deploy my service, see what the like developer experience is like. What is the pricing like working on that cloud? What is the latency like? All of these different kind of factors that you would consider like deciding on which cloud to use. And once you've made that decision, you can just wind down all of those other VMs, those deployments, and stick with the one or two that you want. And the pool is still there. As you remove things from the pool, as if you like take down an endpoint, it just gracefully disappears from the pool, so you don't have to worry about like, oh, I've gotten rid of 4 of my 5 replicas. What's going to happen now? It's like, well, it's a pool of 1 now, and it still works. So David is wondering about, great question. Endpoint pooling is great for rapid development. What can you use to kind of like customize the load balancing experience? This is coming very soon. We have like a really great and simple spec that was written by Alan, our founder himself, on custom load balancing strategies using a whole bunch of different metrics or telemetry or kind of like variables of your endpoints. So it lets you set up things like, I want to, route specifically to the endpoint that has the most memory available to it, or I want to be able to route to, to certain regions given certain circumstances, or if all of the endpoints in the US fail, I want to have a specific kind of like failover strategy available for that. So, if that sounds interesting to you, head over to the dashboard. I'll share my screen to show you where all of this stuff is. There we go. Head over to your dashboard. We have this early access tab on the bottom left corner. Give that a click. And you can see here like everything that we are working on kind of behind the scenes. These are all like, we have traffic policy actions for WAF, for rewriting stuff, for doing all sorts of cool things. There's also advanced load balancing. If you are interested, click that button. That registers you kind of in the back end as being someone who wants to have early access to this feature. And as soon as it's ready, we will send you an email. We'll turn it on in your account, and you will have free reign to be able to try all this stuff out. Very much encourage you all to, like, if you would like to live on that bleeding edge of trying out new features, that's a fantastic way to go. We had a question that was, and I'm not sure if this person is here or not, but a question about load balancing with custom domain names. Because what I showed you before was using, it was hoponin.ngrok.app. And so people are wondering, like, can I also do this if I have mycompany.com? And the short answer is yes, absolutely. The only requirement is that you need to have like a pay-as-you-go plan that allows you to add a custom domain. and you are then able, like, you follow the process of setting that up yourself. I'm not going to be able to show like the entire process, just because it involves DNS configuration and not something that's like particularly uh, interesting or useful to watch. But when in your dashboard, you can go into your domains, and like you can see I've reserved these ngrok.app ones, but you can also add a domain. And so like we could say officehours.com. Let's say I have this domain. Maybe I should own this domain. You can continue, and then what it's going to do is give you DNS settings so that, with your domain registrar, you go in, configure the DNS to point to ngrok, and all of that. Then you can route traffic directly through your custom domain. Awesome. Any other questions load balancing wise? It's like maybe it is just so simple and people are already just trying to get out there and give it a shot. But we've got a little bit of time if anybody is curious about any other sort of like different use cases, or specific ways that you might want to use our new load balancing. We've got a question about endpoint configs. This is a great question. Endpoint configurations alongside edges and edge and all the and modules and all of the different edge-based configurations are being deprecated this year. Depending on your plan and your level of activity, you might have already gotten an email about this. And I'm not informed enough about all of the dates of things happening to be able to repeat them here. But yes, endpoint pooling is a replacement for a bunch of other ways in the past to be able to do load balancing, like endpoint configs or tunnel backends, all of that stuff. If you were thinking about using some of those things, please try out endpoint pooling instead. Or if you were using some of those things, give me a moment and I can surface some documentation that we've written about how to migrate edges and endpoint configurations over to their newer counterparts. Aishika, while I look that up, oh, Aishika has very helpfully done the work for me. I was going to say, maybe we talk for a minute about like our plans in the future to kind of move office hours like outside of this StreamYard experience and into just YouTube itself. Oh yes, I will bring you back. Then it's not just silence as I'm trying to surface things.
Oh my god, now I'm the only one. That's weird. But yeah, I mean, I wouldn't want office hours to be like a one-off thing wherein we just talk to each other and you folks just get to see it. I would want it to be way more interactive, and like we do envision moving to YouTube, starting with the 10th edition of ngrok office hours, and eventually we might actually just move to Discord, so it can be a better discussion wherein we can ask you folks to hop on board and have a chat with us. And Joel, I actually want to have you back.
Okay, sorry. I'm like staring at my other screen trying to find a thing. So I didn't, I was like, I don't think anybody
Yeah.
wants to see the side of my face as I'm trying
Yeah.
to find something. But yeah, I think yeah, in the near term, we're gonna try streaming just on YouTube and see how that feels. Like the experience of what you're looking at will be very
Yeah.
similar, but we'll have the chat there, and it'll be probably an easier way for a lot of you to like interact with what we're doing, as opposed to like you'll still be able to register and send in a question ahead of time, but you'll also be able to subscribe to our YouTube channel,
Right.
find the upcoming live events, click the little, click the bell, and and all of that good stuff. And I've found here another guide on migrating from edges to endpoints. If that is something you're using edges, that might be something to look into and consider what that future looks like for you. Awesome. Well, if there aren't any other questions about load balancing, I could talk forever about it. I've been working on so many different demos and blog posts and videos and et cetera about how to use this thing. So I'm always happy to hang around and chat about with some of that with some folks. We just got a question for ngrok domains, wildcard domains. Does that impact billing? That is a great question. I'm going to be honest, I'm not 100% sure what the implication for wildcard domains is on like whether you are paying for each one of those you create or if you're paying for just one. But we are also like in the midst of changing a lot of packaging and pricing related things. So a lot of this is going to change and get a lot simpler for you and will be a lot more scaled based on your usage of ngrok as opposed to you paying like a flat fee that and maybe you're not even using traffic policy. Now it'll be kind of scalable with you as you grow and start to use more of ngrok in your network. But I will look up an answer and try to get that over to you. One other question that I got in the registration form was kind of how do you deal with failover and kind of like in different regions, or like how do you kind of optimize your load balancing strategy with endpoint pools for different regions? And I actually just remembered that I made like a little sketch that kind of demonstrates some of the logic behind how endpoint pooling works right now, which I'm quite proud of. I love doing these little sketches. So let's say you have 5 replicas of your service running in a pool. Like here they are hanging out in the pool. Everything's working great. But what you've actually done is that they're not just like 5 services wherever, it doesn't matter. You specifically put 3 services in the US. Maybe you're using like AWS and you've put them in one of the many regions in the US. And then you have others in the EU. And what ngrok does is that it's going to start associating those endpoints with a specific point of presence in our network. We have points of presence all across the globe, including 2 in the US and 1 in the EU. So we're kind of saying like, okay, these endpoints are quite close to this point of presence and should be kind of considered like an EU version of your replica or a US version of your replica. What that means for your load balancing is that if you have a US user, it's going to enter, their request will enter the pool and will, because of the proximity to the US point of presence and your US replicas, it will be load balanced between those automatically. Same thing for your EU user. If they come in, it'll skip past the US ones because the latency to connect all the way to the US is going to be more, and it will load balance among just those 2 EU ones by default. And then it's like, well, what happens if, I don't know, all of my EU replicas go down or all of the US replicas go down? In this scenario, for some reason, like maybe AWS in the US goes down entirely, that would normally be very problematic. But with endpoint pooling, you can see with my very helpful diagram that the endpoint pool will remove the US ones automatically, and then we'll start to, that is not what I intended, we'll start to just load balance between the 2 ones that still exist, just because like even the latency might be higher, you're sending traffic all the way to the EU, but better have to have a slow request and response lifecycle than to have a failure entirely. So again, like very cool to have like region-based kind of optimizations of latency, but then also have like automatic protection of failover for things when things we like to say that they're never going to go wrong. We protect ourselves against them. But, I think a lot of this stuff is an inevitability for a lot of folks out there. Cool. I'm very excited, Rob, that you are so hyped about it. If let us know if you have questions. And anyone else, feel free to reach out to us offline. We'd be happy to walk you through things. So, given that, I think this feels like a good place to wrap things up for office hours number 9 for May. We will be back as always in the middle of June for a whole new office hours, different demos, tons of new content, and lots of updates from Aishika from you in the community. And we're really excited about all of that. We're going to do a lot of kind of what is just beyond the 101 level of using ngrok. How can you take what I've showed you today, whether it's that 101 level demo or endpoint pooling, and make it a little bit more production ready? So very excited about all of that. Aishika already dropped in the link to our YouTube channel. Please subscribe. Head in there and find you can find the new office hours session. And hit the bell for that so that you can you see exactly when it's going to come up, and we'll get notified. And just right before we leave, if you have feedback on office hours, like things that you'd like to see, anything like that, let us know. Would be happy to chat with you about that. Feel free to email me or email Aishika, all these different ways to get in touch. But this is, kind of right now is the OG community engagement place. And while we are working on a lot of others, would love to chat with you all about ways that we can make office hours even more interesting, or just community wide, what else you'd like to see. So yeah, Aishika, anything else? You feeling good?
I mean, I would say that, office hours are a monthly cadence, and I would absolutely love to have you folks reach out to Engrokers more often. So please do join our Discord server. Come chat with us and, talk about what you're building, talk about your projects, ask questions if you have any. And we'd be more than happy to, support you on our Discord server. If you have feedback, any criticism, I mean, that's why I've set up our subreddit too. So yeah, share your thoughts, feedback, questions, and do drop some feedback. We'd love that.
Always love the feedback. Thanks for joining me, Aishika. Thanks for leading all of this very exciting community stuff. Thanks to everyone who's been in the chat, following along, praising endpoint pools. We very much appreciate it. I'm going to pass a lot of these messages along to the folks who built it, and they'll be very happy to see that. So perfect. That wraps up office hours for May. We'll be back in June, like I said. But until then, see you in the pool or see you on Discord. And looking forward to chatting with you all. Thanks much. Bye-bye.